All right, we are.
We keep our clients informed as we walk them through the legal process with patience and clear communication. So if you've been hurt in a crash, call Sam and Ash, 702-820-1234, or visit samandashlaw.com. Sam and Ash, because you deserve what's right.
Being a spokesperson is easy. Just say, customize and save. Customize and save. That's right.
All right, Jim Lampley and Vinnie Bonsignore.
Here from webmoneyhoney.com. Have you ever felt like the odd man out at a friend's house watching the game? After years in the sports betting industry, I can teach you the rules of different sporting events so you can now be part of that crowd of cheering fans with an understanding of the game.
All right, how we doing?
I can teach you how to place a bet on a game which will completely
Modelo Friday, Lorenzo, Ty. Sounding good, boys? Thank you. What do we want to talk about today? What do we want to talk about? Offensive line. So, Bobby, we got the final call, which I'll throw to. That's about it.
Don't sweat it. We'll handle all the repairs to get you top dollar, so you can enjoy the sunshine. And hey, if you've got a distressed property weighing you down, we'll buy it for cash in just 24 hours.
So, did you catch most of the fish show online, or did you not? Good. So you're just hearing the audio feed.
Well, I mean, I think I've got video of the first song from the first set and the second set.
Good.
And then I got a bunch of, kids out in the audience with cell phone videos.
So are they going to do one of those exotic album covers on this one, or they only do that for Halloween?
You know, the vicious rumor is that they're going to do Dark Side of the Moon Saturday night because of 420.
Oh, yeah, 420. Wow. Yeah, the Fish concert out here was a pretty big story last night for those who partake in Fish. All right, let's get this thing started. Let's get going. All right, let's go make the donuts.
I don't think those guys have any idea what you're talking about.
You're right. You're right.
I know, but,
Right.
It's time for JT the Brick. Get away from my game. This is my game of football. I've been following it for 50 years. Stop touching it every offseason. What are we doing? The only thing we should take from the XFL is camera angles. We don't practice anymore. We don't hit anybody anymore in the NFL. We just don't. Give me more football, less flag football. Here's the show going forward for the next month. You want to give up a lot to move up, or do you want to stand pat? He's going to go in the top 3 picks. Guaranteed. The Raiders like him, the Raiders. I mean, this is my stuff. JT the Brick. I'm going to start with the 13. He's going to start. You got to get some guys in here. We're going to start.
Great, so you're going to start? And then you all know what I feel about the right tackle. I don't want a project. I don't want 2 swing right tackles who don't play right tackle. They might play guard, but they might be able to play right tackle. I'm done. And now, we got to get giddy up and get going here. Here's JT the Brick.
Let's get going. Final show of the week here as we open it up on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Raider Nation Radio. JT and Bobby in studio today and live on YouTube. Great day to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We take you inside the flagship right here on YouTube. JT the Brick YT is where you can subscribe. Check out the show. We have chats during the breaks. People give me ideas. They get in there, say, hey, guys, what do you want to talk about today? And boom, it floods in and we're opening up. And again, there's going to be a big show. Jim Lampley, Hall of Fame broadcaster, joins us going into the Haney-Garcia fight coming up this weekend. A mind-blowing, great card, great fight. But we found out today that one of the boxers missed weight, and Jim will tell the news here. Ryan Garcia missed weight. He still cut a deal for the fight. It will go forward, and I'm concerned. I think that Ryan Garcia, and I'm going to tell this to Jim Lampley, And he doesn't, I don't know what his reaction is going to be. I think he's mentally unstable coming into this fight. He has mentally been unstable the last couple of months, doing a lot of bizarre things on social media here. So I'm going to watch the fight. A big fight this weekend. Also, Vinnie Bonsignore will join us at 12:45. I spoke to Vinnie earlier today and, talking about the draft and the job he does. Man, he does a big job because Vinny's got to get to know these players quickly. He's got to write stories about them once they get drafted, but also try to find the right fit for the silver and black. In the second hour of the show, we got a bunch lined up. We're going to kind of do a best of our mock draft guys. Bobby told me before the show we've had 17 mock individuals on, mock drafts or insiders, in the last 10 shows, 5 and 5. So I'm excited about that. We wanted to give you a mock draft insider every day, and we overachieve. Some days we get 2, like we've been doing the last couple of days here. So we're doing this again. It's the same story. What are the Raiders going to do at 13? Today, as I opened up the interweb and started looking at more mock drafts now, it's starting to come to reality for the Raiders potentially going right tackle, going offensive line, Fuaga, some of the names that are out there. I have the core 4, the big 4 that should be available for the Raiders. And if one's gone early, Joe Alt, I've never even considered him, tackle eligible out of Notre Dame, the junior. He should go, I think, to Tennessee at number 7. He won't be available for the Raiders, Joe Alt. The Chargers might want to take him. Chargers might want him now because I think the Chargers got a lot going on in this draft. They could have the first non-quarterback selected. What do? Do you take Joe Alt to protect Justin Herbert, or do you get Justin Herbert, Marvin Harrison Jr.? And here in Vegas, we're going to be dealing with Marvin Harrison Jr. for the next 10 years. Remember, we've dealt with the other receivers, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, back in the day. We've dealt with the Charger receivers, all going all the way back to Charlie Joyner and the legends they've had. We deal with them okay. But if they get Marvin Harrison Jr., and if you haven't noticed, Jim Harbaugh is a quarterback offensive guru, and he puts Herbert together with Marvin Harrison together with what they have. Remember, they lose Austin Eckler and a couple of their players here. But, man, I'm fascinated to see what the Chargers do at 5 because they can even trade out of it. They can trade out of that. What happens if the Giants at 6 know that they got to get J.J. McCarthy? He's going to be off the board. They just move up 1, and the Chargers go from 5 to 6, and the Chargers gain another first-round pick. I'm concerned about the Chargers because Jim Harbaugh's there, and he's a hell of a football coach, and he'll fix that offense. But I think the roster is in trouble, just like Denver's roster. I think we all agree is a mess right now, and Sean Payton's got to figure out what he wants to do. And Kansas City, they concern me too because they're winning Super Bowls and no one's quitting and leaving and going, I want more money, I'm going to leave, I want to do this, I'm a diva. No, they all want to come back, and either other players around the league want to play for Andy Reid because they want to get a chip. They want to be a part of a three-peat. So Kansas City remains our nemesis. If we get Fuaga or one of the big, nasty offensive linemen, I don't know how great the player is going to be, but remember, that player will dictate the future of the Raiders in the ground attack against Kansas City. The team that the Raider Nation is trying to track down, why not go get an elite offensive lineman to bookend from Colton Miller, have that ready to go, and then you don't have to worry about that for the next 10 years or 5 years. You can go to every Raider home game and say, we are locked in at right and left tackle. We're perfect going forward. That'd be nice. That hasn't happened around here since Lincoln Kennedy back in the day. I mean, we need something big to happen with the old line. And then the elephant in the room is obviously Jaden Daniels and what it's going to cost to get up to number 2. More and more people now, I even saw the odds today. I'll give you that in a little bit. The odds of Jaden Daniels going number 2 are Drake May. And Jaden Daniels is the favorite now to go number 2. And that's the wish list for Raider Nation. We get Jaden Daniels because something really cool happens and a big trade happens, then we're going to have a party in this building for months. It'll be unbelievable, but he won't be ready to play. It'll be Gardner Minshew versus Aiden O'Connell. Those are your quarterbacks who will play this year. Even a rookie like Michael Penix Jr., probably not ready to go until the end of the year. Remember Mahomes, I think it was a week 11 or 10, correct me, he came in for Alex Smith. Imagine what Andy Reid was thinking at practice watching Mahomes, knowing that Alex Smith was really good. I mean, really good, former number 1 pick. And Andy Reid's going, oh, my God, you see Mahomes in drills today in practice, get him in the game, and he's never come out since. Can the Raiders get that quarterback, or will they wait A lot of the draft insiders are telling me, and you'll hear them in the second hour of the show, we're going to kind of clip together a best of some of our best prognosticators. Most of them say Penix, maybe. No shot at Jaden Daniels, too expensive, and it'll probably be a right tackle. I went to the hockey game last night. Before I get to the calls, you want to dial now, get on hold like Chris in West Oakland. We'll get to him in a second. 702-365-9200. Went to the hockey game last night. My wife and I, we painted the town. We had a great night. It was more like a party than a hockey game. I thought they tried hard. I thought that Vegas was hustling for pucks, dumping it in, checking, taking shots on goal. They didn't look good at all. The game didn't matter much. Now they play in Dallas instead of at Edmonton, and it's go time. Here we go, the postseason for our reigning Stanley Cup champs. I'm not saying they looked bad last night, but as I told Bobby from being there, it looked like Anaheim got the message, hey, it's our last game of the year. Half of the locker room we're going to clear out. You'll never play again with these teammates. We're going to gut the team again, so go have a ball and play your ass off, and they did. Someone made money last night. Someone got a free suite on top of Caesars. Someone got paid last night. Who knew to bet that one? Some of you sharp gamblers, if you weren't all over Anaheim on the money line with that number, someone got paid last night. All right, so we'll get into a lot of it. The NBA is moving forward now in the playoffs here. The play-in, I think it's been okay for TV. I'm not a big fan of it. And now as we reset for the playoffs, the power teams to beat, Denver and the Lakers, going to be a great matchup. My Knicks and the Sixers, Boston, the team to beat in the East. And obviously out west, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, but Denver's clearly the reigning champs, and they're in the position to win it all again and do it again. 702-365-9200. Jim Lampley at the bottom of the hour and Vinnie Bonsignore. This is my only window in the first hour to have you call in. So Raider fans, one thing from here on out, I want the pick in the draft. We're going to be on Monday next week. Tuesday, we're off for the Aviators baseball game. Nice little free day off because of baseball in this time slot. Wednesday, our last show before the draft. And then I'm honored to be back in the chair anchoring the Raiders draft once again on radio next Thursday and Friday. And that should be a blast with the great Eric Allen, Lincoln Kennedy, all of our insiders that are going to join us. All right, Chris in West Oakland, start us off here on a Friday on the flagship. What's happening, Chris? Chris is gone. We just lost Chris there. There you go. Beautiful. Yeah, that's called the dial tone. We'll clean that up in a second. 702-365-9200. So if you're on our YouTube page, a lot of people are in there saying AOC, QB1, JT, we have to go down the road of offensive line. Getting a lot more of that. Offensive line. And you know why? I think the offensive linemen now are elite before 13, and it's going to make a lot of sense as we get going. Chris, we got you back. Apologize for that. Go ahead.
I'll get the draft in the NFL more next week, but I will say this. Number one, I don't believe Patrick Mahomes became the starter, JT, until the beginning of the whatever it was, 2018 or 19, which a lot of people thought it was his rookie year, but it was really a second. Alex Smith took them to a 11-5, 12-4 record the year before. I believe they lost to Pittsburgh in the playoffs, and the next year Mahomes became the starter. I don't recall him starting in like game 11 or 12, but like I said, that was a lot of years and a few Crown Royals ago. But what I wanted to talk about the most, this is where I miss your national show every day a lot. I wanted to kind of put an end on the Golden State Warriors season and quite possibly the championship era of the Golden State Warriors. Look, and before I get to that, let me get the Sacramento Kings thing out of the way. I am already so sick of listening to the Kings run around bumping their gums, acting like they ended the Warrior dynasty. The Warriors were like an old dog, the number 10 seed, an old dog that needed to be put down. You're lighting the beam, running around, dropping ribbons from the rafters like you just beat the Warriors in the conference finals. All you have done is earn the right to play in another play-in game. It's the reason the city of Sacramento is a minor league loser town. The Kings have never won anything, and pretty much other than a few seasons here and there, they've been nothing but irrelevant. They're 4 decades in Sacramento. But the Warriors, look, I was on the record at the start of the season. I didn't like the direction this franchise was going. I didn't like the Chris Paul. I didn't want to hear last year about Chris Paul's expiring contract this summer. To me, you have a limited number of years with Steph Curry on the back end of his prime to try to win another title. They wasted another year with the lineup they have. And it's going to come down to this. At some point, Joe Lacob's going to have to realize Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Gary Payton are nice little pieces. They're not going to lead the next era into championships. They need to bite the bullet, a couple of years left at the most, spend a little bit of money to get some all-stars around Steph Curry so he can have a legitimate chance to compete. Because at 36, there wasn't any drop-off from Steph. It was the players around him. Draymond Green. You want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, JT? This clown was suspended 20 games this year. The Warriors had the third best record in the NBA when Draymond was in the lineup. They were 7-13 without him in the lineup. If he doesn't get suspended for 20 games, JT, the Warriors are the number 2 or 3 seed in the West, and we're having a whole different subject or argument about this right now. So something needs to be done about Draymond going forward, because I don't know that he can be fully trusted down the road, that he's not going to do something stupid again and get suspended for even longer. And finally, let me finish with this. Klay Thompson. It's painful to watch what he did the other night. And Klay's clearly not the player he used to be. The guy got hurt 4 years ago at the absolute peak of his career. The guy's number 5 on the all-time list, JT, and missed 2.5 years. He was on pace to be number 2 behind Steph in every single three-point shooting record there is. Might be the second greatest shooter that's ever lived. He's right there. He's clearly not the same player, and I know it's affected him. All I want to say is this to Klay Thompson: if this was your last game as the Warriors, I hope people don't remember this is the Klay Thompson that's going out. I want them to remember the other half of the Splash Brothers, that as a backcourt that nobody's ever seen before in the history of the NBA that can shoot like these guys. And if this is the end of the Warriors and they do break it up, most dynasties end badly, JT. Very few of them end on top or end without there being some type of turmoil. I'd just like to thank this entire group, because as a lifelong Warrior fan that endured one of the worst franchises in NBA history for the better part of 4 decades, they've given me a dozen years of some of the best basketball the NBA's ever seen, and every single Warrior fan owes these guys a debt of gratitude for what they've given us. Thank you, Klay, Steph, and Draymond. Whatever happens going forward, I'll take 5 or 10 more losing years, because you've given me more as a Warrior basketball fan than I could have ever dreamed of at any point of being a Warrior fan. Thank you, my brother. Have a great weekend. Get that bucket of Modelo's on ice. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. That is a professional phone call right there. And I appreciate it. The Warriors should be leading. The NBA could be leading this time of year. We're in the playoffs. And no, Klay won't be remembered for his last game where he couldn't hit the backboard. He was awful. He'll be remembered for 4 world titles and being an elite future Hall of Famer and playing there at the perfect time. Chris made a great point. When those two were in their absolute prime, and Steph's still playing at his all-time level, probably not at his all-time on 9 out of 10 for him. And Klay, the injury to Klay and the downside of his career, he could still shoot. And shooters are going to have off nights. But it was a pleasure when you look back, and I talked about it the other day, when you look at the history of the Warriors, and when I look back on this recent dynasty, you get lucky in sports in your life when you're in a community. I say that about the Golden Knights here. Stanley Cup in year 6. If you're a season ticket holder, you're seeing the best of the best hockey last year as they won a cup. Imagine the Warrior fans in Oakland at Oracle, and then when they moved to San Francisco at the Dog Patch watching this team play. It came out of nowhere and then becomes a dynasty. And guys like Chris and diehard fans like Cisco and others, you get to watch the entire run of a 10, 11, 12-year run, and you see all those great moments, and you're a part of it because you're at the game and you're a fan. If you're a Warrior fan, it was really good. The Draymond contract was just terrible. How did they ever give him an extension? He's a bully. He's out of control. He hurt his team now. He clearly is not available to play. Worst thing you can do as an athlete is not be available to play. If you got legal problems, that's even worse if you do something stupid. But if you're not available to play because you're getting ejected and you're doing all these dumb things, Draymond's done that a bunch, and they gave him a reward. They gave him more money. And now they're going to get out of the Klay contract if they didn't have Draymond to pay. Think of all the players that would want to go play with Steph for 2 more years in the prime of their career, future Hall of Famers. And they got the money. I got to give credit to Lacob, the owner. Money is not a problem. He's like Jerry Jones. Whatever it costs to go over the cap, he's willing to do that. Good call from Chris. Thanks for bringing in basketball as we open up the show, 702-365-9200. Can't wait to talk to Jim Lampley. If you want to get in our chat on YouTube at JT the Brick YT. Leave me a question for Jim Lampley, who he can spray and go in a whole bunch of different topics. A lot of topics there, and we'll see what he wants to get into. Josh is in Los Angeles listening on the Raiders mobile app. Hello, Josh. Doing good. What's happening?
So I picked Karen Arnold with the 13th pick. And then in the second round, I traded with New England because they had the second pick in the second round. So I traded up and I gave up our next year's third round and I drafted Spencer Rattler. And then in the third round, I drafted our right tackle, Roger Rosengarten.
All right, so you wanted Spencer Rattler that early in the second round, so you moved up to get him there because he won't be there in the third or fourth. That's what you're predicting, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's where he'll probably go. I don't know if the Raiders are going to go down that road with him because why? Why would they bring in Spencer Rattler unless they thought unequivocally he would be the franchise quarterback for the next decade? Then that decision is a bold one. Because if you take Spencer Rattler in the second round after Aiden O'Connell went in the fourth round, and no doubt about Gardner Minshew coming in, the following year you have to give the entire franchise to Spencer Rattler. He's the guy. Are you good with that? I like him. I like him a little bit later than that if he's available. But if you do that, then he's your franchise quarterback. Then why didn't you take Penix? Penix was available probably at 13. That's what makes this unique. The race to get the quarterback is on. How are you going to get the quarterback? If you're lucky to have the first, second, and third pick, you're golden. After that, the Giants with Daniel Jones, the Minnesota Vikings after saying goodbye to Kirk Cousins. Last I looked, you look around the league, the Denver Broncos, with all due respect to Stidham, need a quarterback. They need a quarterback more than the Raiders. How about this guy, Sean Payton? He took the franchise. Jerry Jeudy, get out of here. Russell Wilson, I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to bench you and embarrass you, and I'm going to eat your entire $200 million contract, embarrass you, and kick you out of the organization. And now Sean Payton's sitting there before us at 12 in need of a quarterback. Is he going to wait? If he waits till 12 and he doesn't trade up, that's where Michael Penix can go. But a lot of people, from Daniel Jeremiah to other individuals, you'll hear from Rhett Lewis next hour. A lot of people think that Peyton's going to figure it out and get a veteran quarterback the way he did with Drew Brees if he doesn't have to break one in. I think the guy who would be perfect for Sean Payton is J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan, that guy who worked with Harbaugh, you give him 3 years with Harbaugh at Michigan, then you give him Sean Payton. Will Denver trade up to get the quarterback? Everything is wide open as we open up the show. So Jim Lampley right around the corner. Bobby, give me the final call of VGK last night. They were never in this game. This was never a contest.
Short-handed empty net goal for Frankie Toronto has made it a 3-goal lead, and the clock will run out. Game 82 ends on a sour note for the regular season. Anaheim 4, Vegas 1.
Yeah, so that was my night last night. Late night. After that, we went to Durango, met some friends at Durango. What a beautiful job they've done with that property. Oh, my God. It's fantastic in between my house and Red Rock. So we went over there after the game last night and got up early this morning, looked out the window and said, yes, look at this weather. Pool season for all of our proud partners, including Resorts World. Head on out to their pool. Have you seen that? They got many pools in the back that look at the back side of the strip. Incredible. And they're even building out more areas back there for cabanas, DJs. Fantastic. Resorts World, proud partner of our show. The great Jim Lampley will join us. One of the smartest men I've ever interviewed, and I continue to interview. We'll touch on boxing and usually media, what's happening in the world of sports. You know, hi, Caitlin Clark. Got to ask him about Caitlin Clark because Jim Lampley's seen it all. Olympics are around the corner with the NBA going all in to get that goal behind Grant Hill and Steph Curry and Steve Kerr. Big half hour coming up. Jim Lampley into Vinnie Bonsignore on the flagship of the Silver and Black. All right, chat friends, what's going on? Clay in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, Clay is a Hall of Famer, no debate. I got to get a glass of water. I'll be right back.
field and explosive plays, you must come away with Michael Penix in this draft.
The Morning Tailgate, weekdays at 7 a.m. on Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m.
Injured in a crash? Call Sam and Ash at 702-820-1234. That's 702-820-1234. Sam and Ash, because you deserve what's right.
Are you shopping for healthcare coverage for a small business? Whether you're renewing a plan or shopping for a new one, the Vegas Chamber Health Plan, backed by Anthem, has many of the advantages usually reserved for a larger organization, like access to care across Nevada at lower cost. Lock in quality healthcare at budget-friendly prices through July 2024. Go to vegaschamber.com/anthem. Brought to you by the Vegas Chamber in cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association and this station.
Collectors, Front Row Card Show is back at the Rio Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas on April 20th and 21st. Baseball, football, basketball, and hockey cards, plus Pokemon, Marvel, Star Wars, and comic books. SGC, Beckett, and CBCS will be there. So bring your cards and comics to sell, trade, or get upgraded. Hundreds of vendors, including gold and silver pawn shop from TV's Pawn Stars. Thousands of dollars in free prizes. Don't miss it. Front Row Card Show, Saturday and Sunday, April 20th and 21st, 11 to 5. For more info, go to frontrowcardshow.com. That's frontrowcardshow.com.
When you are injured, knowing that someone has your back changes everything. Our family has spent over 3 decades fighting and pursuing justice for the injured. It's a long family heritage that we proudly carry on. From our father to our family to the expert legal team at the Castro, we founded this firm for you.
Wow. On our ESPN? Oh, no, on it was national. Good. Yeah, I think he said he was filling in for Mike Greenberg. That's good. All right, Jim Lampley coming on next. Fabian, Cisco, Modelo.
And Sunday the 21st, it's another fun in the Sun game starting at noon, and kids can run the bases. Aviators Baseball, easy access, free parking, great food.
Aviators Baseball.
That's why life's just better at Las Vegas Ballpark.
Has anybody ever taken their dog to the ballpark? We were thinking of doing it the other night, but I said too big of a. Yeah, I saw. Yeah. All right. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Yep.
With over 65 taverns, there is always a location near you. To find yours, visit ptstaverns.com today.
Free registration is back at Land Rover Henderson, Southern Nevada's premier luxury automotive destination. Whether you're in the market for a new Land Rover or want a top-quality pre-owned vehicle.
Next week's a big week around here, everybody. Raiders pick. It's going to be huge. What's the going price to move up to number 4 with the Cardinals? Well, if you go up to number 4, Jaden Daniels will be gone, Drake May will be gone, and Caleb Williams will be gone. So why do you want to go up to number 4? You'd have to go to get J.J. McCarthy, I guess. I think it'll be the Raiders' 13th pick, obviously, and two future first-rounders. Move up in the first round, you're giving up 2 future first-rounders at a minimum, maybe 3.
All I needed to do was find a sweet ride. Get a sweet loan for a sweet ride at onenevada.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
Modelo is an official cerveza of the Las Vegas Raiders and the JT the Brick Show. Modelo Especial is a rich, full-flavored Pilsner-style lager, delivering a crisp, refreshing taste, brewed with fighting spirits since 1980.
Garcia's going to lose $600,000. Wow.
JT the Brick Show, brought to you by PT's, the best happy hour in town, 5 to 7 p.m. and midnight to 2 a.m.
Yeah, I think it's just about, AP challenged me early. It's not just about me, great players. There's a lot of really good players, but, the great ones bring others up. And for me, I took that personal. I know guys like Spillane and John Jenkins, other dudes, it helps when you got guys like that coming in because it gives the young guys no other option, but to be here. So we wanted to be here and work together and just continue building what we already started. And, I feel like this team has all the potential. We have more than enough talent to go out there and achieve great things, but all that is bullshit unless you go out there and do it yourself. So we got a lot of work to do. It's April, and we're just excited, for what's to come. But all that matters is today, and we'll worry about tomorrow when it gets here.
That's Mad Max. Got to bleep him out. Bobby and I talked about that earlier this week. We wanted to air Mad Max live, and Bobby, who's been doing this as long as me, if not longer, looks at me and he said, "No, we can't take Max live." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Bleep, bleep." You go, "Oh, you're right." So in the front of the locker room, that's one thing, but Max now, he's got a podcast. He's at ring, he's right next to the octagon for all the fights, and Max will drop a little profanity from time to time. So we will not take Max live. We will take Aiden O'Connell live going forward, but not Mad Max. He's the best. And spending yesterday for an hour with Antonio Pierce and talking about Max in front of the ballroom there at Mandalay Bay for the Raiders Partner Summit, you just see Antonio Pierce light up. That's his guy. That's the guy he needs in that locker room to keep everything going great. I mentioned former head coaches Joe Philbin and Marvin Lewis. A lot of leaders inside the Raider organization now. A lot of leaders, a lot of men who are accountable. And you went out in free agency and got Wilkins. You look at another player who was accountable in Miami, the leader of that team up front. You had in Mad Max, and then the rest of the team. How about Robert Spillane? Maybe we should play maybe another bite from him before the show wraps up next hour. He is really good now as a leadership role. I was one of the first guys to meet him when he came here, and we introduced him to Phil Villapiano, and that was unbelievable. Now he looks like he's been here forever, Spillane, and he's a great leader of the team. So we're working on Jim Lampley in a moment. He's going to join us as we get ready for this fight. Haney-Garcia, World Championship fight in Brooklyn this Saturday night, and the breaking news today that Garcia missed weight. He missed it by 3 pounds. He loses $600,000 for missing weight. Raise your hand and beep your horn if you wanted to lose a little weight from time to time. It didn't cost you 600 large. That's how much he loses here. Also, Bill Belichick, they announced, is going to be doing more with Pat McAfee, and he's going to be doing work coming up here on some other streaming devices with Peyton Manning in Omaha. So I think Bill Belichick, we talked a lot about him this week, for a couple of months, people were saying, what's Belichick going to do? What's he going to do? Peyton Manning came in, and ESPN came in to write a check. He wants to write a book. And he has to get in front of this documentary that came out on him, which I finished The Dynasty, I told you last week, and it was super hard on Belichick. And Tom Brady, part owner of the Aces, hopefully part owner moving forward with the Raiders. Man, that whole dynasty with Brady showed a lot of his history here. But Bill Belichick, it seems like they're doing a nice little rollout with him over at Omaha and ESPN, so that's good news for him. NBA, just quickly on the NBA as we wait for Jim Lampley to join us. The play-in tournament was good for the Lakers so far. We got a couple of big games coming up here, and we're not going to see a couple of great players. Zion Williamson out with the hamstring, and Jimmy Butler is gone. So he's not going to be playing throughout the postseason. He's too valuable to shut him down. So tonight, the early game will be the Bulls Heat, and then the late game will be the Kings at the Pelicans. As Chris from West Oakland picked up on that a little while ago, a big deal for the Kings because they were flexing their beer muscles after they beat the Warriors going crazy. Now they got to get on a plane and go to New Orleans, but there's no Zion there. Winner in the playoffs, loser out. The pure elimination game. Bulls at Heat without Jimmy Butler. I expect him to get in there. And now we find out the schedule for the Golden Knights going forward. And I think it's going to be interesting playing Dallas now. No one's afraid of anybody. But not having to play Edmonton in the first round makes a lot of sense. Because I think Edmonton would want to jump all over VGK quickly in the series. I think that Vegas can go and get a victory in Dallas. And if they do, they'll be able to jump back and get it rolling here and I think win the series. It's going to be an unbelievable opening round for our Vegas Golden Knights. No doubt about that. And for the Raiders draft next week, a couple of the shows that we're going to have next week to build up to that, I'm specifically now diving into the O-line, cornerback, and quarterback. Doesn't mean we're not looking at everything else. The Raiders provided us with a really extensive draft guide. And when we look through it, we'll be able to really put our hands into it. But I think the offensive line section that I'm looking at now, the 3 to 4 that are out there are going to be incredible. 702-365-9200. We're waiting to hear from Jim Lampley. I want to take a quick break. We'll come back on the YouTube Live. We're going to set that up. If Jim's running late, Bobby, maybe we can throw in Vinnie Bonsignore because I got to double stack them in to the top of the hour. That's live radio for you. And we'll dive into baseball, too. A couple of good games coming in. You see the crowd for the White Sox game? They said 1,000 people. Not 4,000 like in Oakland. 1,000 at one point in the game. Baseball's underway, too. And Jim Lampley on the other side as we continue on the flagship of the Silver and Black. Yeah, his guy was texting me, so he's running late.
Bring your friends, have some fun, but always bet on black. Visit their 10 casinos across the valley. Don't let the game get out of hand. Please bet responsibly.
Every now and then life happens, and you or a family member need an outstanding criminal attorney. I'm Tony Abitangelo, and we are the Vegas Lawyers. Whether you need representation for DUI, domestic violence, record sealing, or any other criminal charge, we are here to help.
Hey, Bobby, be right back here. Text Vinny to see if he can go early if Lampley's running a little bit late. Oh, hold on.
The Vegas Lawyers, a division of Paul Patta Law, where compassion and strong legal representation come together. Go to thevegaslawyers.com.
Remy Martin is the official cognac of the JT the Brick Show. When you're celebrating any of your team's victories, celebrate with Remy Martin Cognac. XO, VSOP, and 1738. Remy Martin, team up for excellence.
Yeah.
Get ready to experience luxury and performance like never before with the 2024 Jaguar F-Pace. For a limited time, take advantage of 2.9 financing for up to 72 months. Imagine yourself in the driver's seat of this exquisite SUV with its cutting-edge features and unparalleled design. Come get yours today at Jaguar Land Rover Las Vegas, 6425 Roy Horn Way, or visit us online at jlrlv.com.
So if we do get Vinny on, give me about 2 or 3 minutes to call Vinny, and then Jim calls in and tell him to call back. But I'm not gonna. Yeah, Vinny says he's ready. So let me reset. Do Vinny unless Jim calls in right now. And if Jim calls in, don't put him on hold. So you can call back in 10. All right. Little booking issue as we go behind the scenes here. Jim Lampley running late because he's probably in New York, and that breaking news on Garcia missing weight. He might be on the air. He might be on that pay-per-view side. Yeah. Yeah.
That guy missed weight by 3 pounds. That's a big
Yeah.
problem.
We got a guy named Little Ass Boy on the YouTube chat. Is May worth the trade up to number 4 if available? Yeah, I think Drake May if he drops to 4. Just hearing no buzz around the Raiders with Drake May, none. Oh, it was hot today, man. What's the temperature? It feels like it's big time summer today. Let's see.
80.
80? Feels a lot warmer than 80.
It was 80 a half hour ago.
83. 83 in Vegas today. Massapequa, where I'm from in New York, 54 degrees. San Diego, 66.
Do you want to have Vinny ready to go when we get out?
Yeah, we're going to probably just end up doing Vinny, you know. Yep, appreciate it. All right, everyone, we're going to knock out one more segment. Vinnie Bonsignore coming up next, Raider Insider. And second hour of the show won't be on YouTube, but you can listen. And we kind of got a best of with a couple of our best pundits on and mock draft guests.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by Rosario Tequila, the official tequila of the JT the Brick Show.
For me, football comes down to fluidity. You can see it
Elaine.
With the naked eye. Untrained eye can tell fluidity versus non-fluid. And for me, the fluidity of motion speaks to the level of athleticism and preparedness of the player has. So if I can get my game to look crisp and smooth and not taking false steps, being violent on ball carriers, being a good teammate, I always challenge myself how to become a better teammate to my players. So there's so many things to work on, and we just try to get 1% better in each one of those areas.
Robert Spillane, captain, linebacker, at home in the silver and black. JT, back with you as we continue on. Brought to you by Tequila Commissariо. We're going to put Vinnie Bonsignore up in the slot. Jim Lampley's running late. I wouldn't be surprised if Jim is running late. Maybe we get him next hour on what's happening with the Haney-Garcia fight as Garcia missed weight. And Jim's part of the broadcast there on PPV, so maybe he's doing something there and got called in. So he normally comes back and always shows up, so hopefully we can fit him in before the top of the hour. As we look at mock drafts going forward, a lot of them now are coming down to quarterback or offensive tackle for the Raiders. Vinnie Bonsignore, kind enough to join us. Vinnie, do you feel like there's a shift, not inside the building with your sources, but with your radio show and everybody else, that everybody's starting to come to grips of offensive tackle for the Raiders instead of reaching for a quarterback in a trade?
Because they can have their pick of the litter of the top cornerbacks depending on how the draft plays out, where they can make the first selection at that position and come away with who they believe is the best player at that position. Whereas I think with tackle, there's a chance that a couple that they probably really like could go in the top 10 or in the top 12. So they would be picking, from a lesser of a group compared to the cornerbacks. But I'll say this, I still think that cornerbacks in play here. We're seeing some reports where Jaden Daniels, the odds of him now going second are starting to drop, whereas the odds of Drake May going second are beginning to rise. So what's going on there? Adam Schefter had pointed out that maybe there's a possibility that Jaden Daniels is expressing to some people where he really wants to play, and maybe one of those teams just happens to be coached by his former coach at Arizona State. How does that play into it? Has that played into where these odds are right now? If he does play, if Washington passes on him as a result, we've already heard from Elliott Wolf, the New England Patriots de facto general manager, that they're open for business. If Jaden Daniels is sitting there at number 3, and the Patriots have already indicated now that they'd be willing to potentially trade down, is that where the Raiders, or when the Raiders pick up the phone and make a godfather offer to the Patriots?
So, Vinny, are you suggesting, do you think this is going to be a heavy trade market early in these first 13 picks, especially with Denver at 12, Minnesota, everything we're looking at? Because I doubt it's going to go clean, 1 to 13. I'm expecting something big early, but I also know how expensive it is to get up to number 2 or number 3. I wonder how many teams have the guts to do that.
To make a move up. I think what they're waiting on, and what everyone else is waiting on, is who are they trading up for? Who are they trading up, and who is their dance partner? It feels like the Commanders, whether it's Jaden Daniels or Drake May, are just not in the business of trading down. Their general manager made that pretty clear yesterday. So if they're going to hold on to that second pick, everybody's got to wait to find out who they ultimately pick. If it's Jaden Daniels, do the Vikings trade up with the Patriots to get Drake May? Do they wait a little while longer and maybe make a trade that's less prohibitive to get a J.J. McCarthy? And that's the other part of it. Who do the Vikings like? I don't think that they like both J.J. McCarthy and Drake May to make a godfather offer to the Patriots, but I think one of those two they do, and as far as the one that they don't, they would make it less prohibitive deal with somebody else to move up. So I think everybody's waiting on what's going to happen with the Commanders, and I think once that happens, I do think you'll see some trades.
Vinny, last one. We got to go quick here. I got to just ask you about the due diligence at right tackle. From your sources inside the building, the workouts that they've had, the visits overall, are you leaning to any one of them in particular who could be there at 13?
I like Talise Fuaga from Oregon State. Got a chance to meet with him and talk to him in Mobile, Alabama. I think there's some really good tackles regardless. And I also think that for the second round and maybe even in the third round as well if the Raiders go elsewhere. But something about him, he's a Tacoma kid, went to Oregon State. Talking to him and seeing the tenacity that he played with in Mobile during the practices, and then corresponding that with the film, he just feels like a Raider. And that's not to take anything away from anybody else, because I think there's some really good tackle prospects. But if you were to tell me I got to pick one for the Raiders at number 13, that's the direction that I would go.
Thanks, Vinny. Got to run. Always appreciate you.
You too, JT. Thank you.
Vinnie Bonsignore. All bad on the confusion for Jim Lampley. We got him up here. Jim, apologize for the delay. Breaking news on Garcia missing weight. How big does that affect the person, affect the fight?
Well, we don't know the answer to that yet. Yesterday at a news conference, Garcia was suggesting I'll pay $500,000 a pound. It was hard to tell whether he was serious or joking. His father kind of reached over and muzzled that. We weren't at the doorstep of this yet, but he winds up 3.2 pounds overweight. If you were to apply the $500,000 formula that he himself suggested at the news conference yesterday, perhaps jokingly, that would be $1.6 million. One way or the other, he's going to pay some kind of price to get into the fight, and it doesn't really appear on the surface, JT, that he ever had any serious intention of making weight. 3.2 is a pretty large margin. He's been, not necessarily blubbery, but plentiful around the waistband area ever since he got here. And whatever he might have done at the last minute to cut down the 3.2 extra pounds didn't appear that anything was done. And so he shows up overweight for the fight.
It's the PPV.com broadcast with Jim Lampley, kind enough to join us. Jim, I'm just going to say it. I've been saying it on other platforms too. I think he is visibly unstable mentally the entire promotion, losing his mind at a lot of different events, and especially what he's doing on social media. I didn't see it all, but what I saw, it just doesn't look like his mind is right coming into the fight. Is that fair?
Reporters at the weigh-in, is he crazy or is he crazy like the fox? And at this moment, I would have to suggest he isn't crazy like the fox. He's crazy. He hasn't done anything here in New York since he got here that in some way improves his competitive picture going into the fight, including the shove on the roof at Madison Square Garden, at the Empire State Building the other day, mixing up my New York landmarks. Yes. The shove on the roof of the Empire State Building, now showing up 3.2 pounds overweight for the fight at the Barclays Center. None of it suggests a dedicated, serious, competitive approach to the fight.
Jim, in all your decades of calling the biggest fights, can you share a story or two, or at the boxing meetings or the sit-downs you have the night before the fight, sitting down with the fighters, maybe looking across an unstable fighter there? You knew something was a little bit off going into a super fight.
Well, I've seen a fair number of guys who behaved in unusual ways going into the fight, but I don't know if I've ever seen one who did it so clearly of his own volition as this guy does. And I would have to say that the difference is social media. We didn't have in the past these self-created, self-governed editorial platforms that allow guys to project whatever it is they feel like they want to project, whether it's crazy or competitive or what. He is perhaps the most unusual specimen of social media user that we have yet seen in the fight game. And no, I don't know of anybody to whom I would compare him directly in terms of the craziness of his behavior.
Jim, when you look at social media and when it came into play, I mean, I don't know if it was 12, 14, 15 years ago, whenever it was, and now athletes live on their social media. Overall, has it done more damage or some good because brands are getting out easily and young people can get information on any athlete or anybody else in society, from a rock star to an actor, in a matter of moments?
JT, there's a reason why there are media professionals like you. There's a reason why people get training in how to report
properly and ethically about what is the truth in given situations. It's true about news reporting. It's true about sports reporting. Social media are an invitation to throw professional standards out the window, to ignore the real values of truth, to say whatever you want to say for whatever reason you want to say it. And he's just the most extreme case I have seen yet. Floyd Mayweather was a social media genius. He used social media to school the public that he wanted to have behind him into being able to understand the efficacy of fighting the way he fought, the brilliance of turning down the temperature in fights and purposely making them look dull for his competitive advantage, and coaxing the audience into a mentality of supporting that so that they would continue to buy tickets and pay-per-views regardless of whether there was going to be any entertainment value in the fight. That's a case of Floyd using social media to further and advance his career. Ryan Garcia doesn't seem to have any purpose other than to call attention to himself. Now, he can turn me right around on my butt and embarrass me by going in and winning the fight tomorrow night with some genius strategy that I don't see coming. But barring that, I think he has mostly placed a kind of a bullseye on himself and invited people to say, is he crazy or is he crazy like a fox? Well, he lost the fight. He must not have been crazy like a fox.
Jim Lampley, that was brilliant what you said about Floyd. I've never heard it that way. It's exactly what he's done. I've lived out here the whole time. I never missed one of his fights. You nailed that. Jim, I've been dying to ask you about Caitlin Clark. It was a phenomenon like we've never seen. We're talking 14 million, 12 million, 9 million, and then the draft over 3 million. No one's ever moved the needle with ratings in female athletics other than the Olympic Games to some degree like Caitlin Clark did over the last 3 weeks. How'd you see it?
Well, I think, she's one of a kind. The only comparison I've used in relation to Caitlin Clark is Pistol Pete Maravich. Because it starts with the haunted look, the dark eyes, the hollowness under the eyes, the degree to which she is entirely the focus of attention on her team because of the way she plays and how well she plays. The difference between Caitlin Clark and Pete Maravich is that he had a much more undisciplined shot selection and shot at a way lower percentage than that at which she shoots. She's remarkable. The distance on those threes is perhaps the first compelling element. When you see her get the ball 40, 45 feet from the basket and then just instantly pull the trigger, there's no defense for it. Nobody's going to send a defender out to guard her beyond the half-court line. She can go around them too easily. So to see how well she shoots, given the choices that she's making, it's remarkable. And, it belittles to a certain degree what Maravich did, because Maravich was a 39% shooter. She's way above that. And firing it up from the same range, the same distance, with the same frequency, and racking up the points. Amazing to watch.
It was great. PPV.com. Tell us why you love this platform and what you're doing for this fight.
So this is a chance to comment during the fight via text, in words. Don't have to use my voice. Don't have to appear on camera. It's still there in the words of Jim Lampley. You know what I'm thinking. You know what I'm saying. I try to pick out a few comments in every round that are appropriate, that are informative, that illuminate in some way what I see happening in the fight. It's not blow by blow. I'm not calling, sequences of action over and over. He landed a left jab. No, he landed the left jab again, etc. That's not what it's all about. It's about trying to find momentary insight. I'm more like Larry Merchant than I am like Jim Lampley in doing what I do on ppv.com. And I make that comparison in fear and trembling and with a lot of respect for my senior predecessor. I only hope I can be half as intelligent and illuminating as Larry so often was. But that's basically what I'm trying to do with a few comments per round on ppv.com. And of course, I'm working with Chris Algieri, who has his own experience and background as a fighter. I'm working with Dan Canobio, who's the son of the man, my dear friend Bob Canobio, who invented the box score for boxing in the face of a lot of people like Larry who said, oh, this can't be done. You can't do that. You can't get people to normalize and accept the notion that there's a box score for boxing. Well, oh, yes, you can. CompuBox did it. CompuBox succeeded in making it a mainstay for writers all over the country. And Dan is now the legacy of all of that process. So the three of us are making our comments available on ppv.com. And anybody who buys the fight can join in our live conversation and be a part of the chat.
I'll be a part of it. Lastly, do you have a favorite watering hole or restaurant all time in Manhattan? Your go-to number one Jim Lampley spot?
It's an Italian restaurant on Houston Street, right at the top of Soho, Houston near Mulberry. It is called Emilio's, Emilios, Emilio's Bellato. It's not always easy to get in. The atmosphere is something like a private club. It has the single best chicken parmesan anywhere in the world, and a lot of other great food to go with it. Among the people who have dined near me when I dined at Emilio's Bellato were Danny DeVito, Warren Beatty, Barack Obama. It is the place to go for me, and I recommend to all of my Las Vegas friends, when you come to New York, see if you can get into Emilio's Bellato on Houston between Mulberry and I forget the other cross street, but it's closest to Mulberry.
You got it. Thank you, Jim. Have a great weekend. Have a great dinner tonight. Take care.
All right. Talk to you later, JT.
You got
Bye-bye.
it. Jim Lampley. How cool was that? Said the best chicken parm in the world. And you know my rule. Whenever I go to an Italian restaurant, every single time I order chicken parm the first time I'm there. If they blow me away with the chicken parm, we're good. Then we go off the menu the next time and we go back a third. But it's always chicken parm. He's amazing. Jim Lampley should be retired. He's been super successful. He's taught at North Carolina, the Olympic Games, all the shows he's had, the news, and every great fight he called. So now, in kind of like a low-key retirement, they pay him to come on for these fights. This Haney-Garcia fight, as I've said it, I love boxing. I follow it closely. I don't like what I'm seeing with Garcia. He looks mentally imbalanced. Something's off. I'm not saying cancel the fight, but he's 3.5 pounds overweight. He's going to lose a lot of money, and I think he's going to do something desperate in the ring. I think there's going to be a meltdown of epic proportions at some point in this fight by Garcia, and Haney's going to try to destroy him and embarrass him for everything that Garcia said about his manhood. This is an ugly mess going into this fight here, and that's what people want. They want some go-to stuff. So what we're going to try to do here this next hour here, we got Orlando. Let me get Orlando up. Orlando, thanks for waiting. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yep.
JT, if you'll see, after everything you saw about him last year, all his off-season and what he's got going in the weight room, if AOC and Will Levis were in this year's draft, for which you ranked them, and I'll listen to hear what you say. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it. I mean, look, if AOC was coming in this draft after what I saw last year, to me, he'd be a third-round pick. Levis would probably be what you would think, mid-first-round pick. Athletically, he's a better athlete, but Aiden is impressing us. He's in the weight room. Raiders put out some photos of him working out the other day. Quarterback's got to be the first one in, the last one to leave. The problem is that's Max Crosby. First one in, last to leave. We're going to go through some of our best mock drafts next hour, kind of like a best of the mocks. That was good. That was complicated trying to get them both on. I wish we didn't have to cut Vinny short. All right, everybody in YouTube, thank you. I'll see you Monday. Hey, big breaking news. Monday, I'm live from Wynn. I'm doing my show, the JT the Brick residency at Wynn in their brand new SiriusXM Blue Wire studio. So I'm going to be in an unbelievable studio every Monday night going forward, and I'll try to live stream some of it. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you.